and Facebook. Okay, Hare Krishna. It says it's being live streamed. Hopefully that's working. Okay, thank you for joining us. I'll just start with Mangalacharan. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Miritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Siddhantotpala Saranitya Rasikam Hansang Vilasatmakam Audaryakya Sudama Sevakatanam Vishramba Bhakti Pradam Yatya Yukti Vichakshanam Tvakapido Vaishishta Shaktya Sada Vandeham Tripurari Namakayatim Shri Bhakti Vedantinam Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Swami Shri Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupadaya Te Namaha Gurvakyam Shirasi Dritva Shaktya Swarupine Hare Krishna Ti Mantrena Paschatya Prachetarine Vishvacharya Praparyaya Divya Karunya Murtaye Shri Bhagavata Madhurya Gita Jnana Pradayine Gaura Shri Rupa Siddhanta Saraswati Nishevine Radha Krishna Padam Bhoja Bhringaya Gurave Namaha Devang Divyatanum Suchanda Vadanam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Purang Sareka Varanam Vairagya Vidam Buddhim Shri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Sarasvatanam Varam Vande Tang Shibadham Adeka Sharanam Yashishwaram Shridharam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ajunulambita Pujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishvambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gododaye Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamonuto Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Charana Sukho Sukhado Paramanando Sundaro Subalapriyo Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai and Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Hari Bol Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for joining today. Pranam to you all. Thank you and welcome. We'd also just like to quickly express my thanks also to Srila Padmanabha Maharaj for kindly encouraging me to give these talks, even though the first time he asked a few months ago, I made lots of excuses and didn't really want to do it. But so when he asked me again, I thought, I can't really say no, so I will try to step up and try to prepare something. But I do really thank him because he's been very encouraging and I appreciate that a lot. And it's very nice for him to engage me in the seva of trying to serve the devotees and trying to be more absorbed in the Lord. So I do appreciate that. So thank you, Maharaj. And yeah, thank you to everybody for being here. When Maharaj asked about giving some talks in this series, I thought long and hard, like what can I speak about? I'll just give you a little bit of background of my own experience. I've been reading books about Krishna consciousness for since about the year 2000, when I went to university, and then in 2003 I started practicing. And then 2004 I moved to Temple, ISKCON Temple in Scotland, and I lived there for 5 years. And so over the years, since I guess since 2003, I've been reading over the years, but I wouldn't say that I'm not a very scholarly person, in the sense that I'm not very well versed in lots of Shastra. Although since I was young, I used to like to read a lot, but I found that when I discovered transcendental literature, I found that I've always read it much slower, and it's always taken me quite a long time to read it. So just to give an example, when I first read the Bhagavad Gita quite a number of years ago, the first time I read it, it took me about two years to read it. So I read it quite slowly. And again, with Srimad Bhagavatam, I started reading that in about probably, 2004, 2005. And I'm a bit embarrassed to say that I'm still not finished. I'm on the 10th canto, chapter 27, but it's because, like I say, when I read these books, I feel quite astounded by what I'm reading. So I can't read too much all at once. I just read like a bit, and I try to take it in and absorb it. But I don't know if that's the best way. Probably I should try to, be a bit more faster at reading it. But I just wanted to just let you know that, just so that nobody has any sort of kind of I don't want to give any false impressions, or give you some false high expectations of like what I will be able to say. I haven't even I'm reading Chaitanya Charitamrita since this year. I just started reading it properly, but again, it's something I'm not these core shastras I've been reading throughout the years, but also in between other books of my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Tripurari Swami Maharaj, and other books of our acharyas. And obviously I've heard classes over the years, and I try to take as much in as I can. But I just wanted to just give you a bit of background, really, just so I'm sure I know that there are many scholarly devotees in our Sangha, and there may be I suppose my talk will be fairly maybe quite simple, so hopefully I just apologize if it's too simple for some people, but we'll just we'll just try our best. And it's always nice to share things about the Lord, and hopefully even if it's things that you've heard already or things that still it can always be relishable. I was thinking, how did I decide to speak on the topic that we came to? I was thinking over my time in Krishna consciousness, and the things that had the biggest effect on me, and the things that were most inspiring to me. One of the things which, as I mentioned, I haven't read all of Chaitanya Charitamrita, but when I was younger, in my early years in the temple, I used to listen to pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, told by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. And these pastimes were based on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and possibly Chaitanya Mangala as well. I'm not sure, but certainly the first two. And so when I used to listen to those, it really made Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really come alive for me, to understand something about the mood and the feeling of what was going on at that time. So I found that very inspiring. I was also thinking, what does enthuse me in Krishna consciousness? One one point I thought I'd share with you is that in the temple where I lived, especially for the first few years, it was very strict. There was one guru there who he unfortunately lost his position due to improper behavior. But one of the sort of rules was that we were only allowed to listen to either Srila Prabhupada or that particular guru. But one day I was gifted a CD by a girl that I was friends with, and she didn't live in the temple, which is a very nice devotee. And she gave me a CD, and it was a CD of bhajans sung by Gaurangi Dasi, which I'm not sure, maybe some of you may have heard of her. She's a British devotee. She's the daughter of a devotee called Jayadev Prabhu, who is he's a very kind-hearted and compassionate devotee, and he's quite musically talented himself. He was actually in a famous band in the 70s called the Rubettes. But so his daughter Gaurangi, she has a very nice voice, and so I was gifted this CD of bhajans, and the title of it was called Nitai Pran, and there were lots of devotional songs on it. There were quite a few on there, specifically about Lord Nityananda, but also songs about Gauranitai, other songs, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, Gurudev. There was Hey Govinda, Hey Gopal, which was written by Guru Nanak, I believe. So there were lots of songs on there, and when I heard that CD, I didn't tell anybody in the temple that I had it, because I thought I might get in trouble. So I used to listen to it secretly. But when I heard these songs, I was really inspired by them. One, because many of these songs I'd never heard before, so it really made me want to learn the words and to understand what she was singing. Probably also it was quite inspiring because I'd also never really heard like a lady singing devotional songs, because of the way that it was in the temple. It was as you know, probably some devotees have experienced, that often you know, the Prabhus are more at the kind of forefront, and you know, it wasn't really encouraged like ladies to sing or anything like that. So when I heard this CD, I was very inspired by it, and it made me want to learn what are these bhajans. And that actually inspired me more. Like, we were always encouraged to learn shlokas from the Shastra, but I felt more inspired to learn the songs and to try to learn the verses. So when I would have some time, I would usually try to learn songs more so than shlokas. I don't know very many shlokas. Don't know very many songs either, but still, I was that was more, you know, exciting for me to learn those. One of the songs on the CD was Gaurangi singing the verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the 5th chapter of Adi Leela, where it's the description of Lord Nityananda as he appeared in the dream of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and as we know from that dream, in the dream he told Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to go to Vrindavan. And there Kaviraj Goswami met the 6 Goswamis, and he wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so when I'd hear these songs, I found them very quite magical, actually. And on the topic of Lord Nityananda encouraging Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to go to Vrindavan, and he said, there, you know, you will attain all things. And there's something I read very nice recently in there's a book called Sacred Preface, written by my Guru Maharaj, Srila Tripurari Swami, and there's a part where he refers to that dream, and he says that Lord Nityananda is arguably the final word in Chaitanya Vaishnavism. And I thought I'll just briefly read a short paragraph where he explains how this is so. So Nityananda Ram also plays a significant role in the final word of Chaitanya Vaishnavism in the form of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. As we shall see ahead, it was also Nityananda who inspired our venerable author Sri Krishnadas to leave home and take up residence in Vrindavan, from where he would pen his masterpiece. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is written mostly in Bengali, and as such, it gives the Vrindavan Goswami's realizations concerning Sri Chaitanya, which were written in Sanskrit, back to Bengal, and from there to the rest of the world. Thus, Nityananda Ram, who is situated in Sakyaras, played a major role in circulating the news of Sri Krishna's descent in pursuit of Radha's love. So I thought that was very nice to just to take into consideration how much we owe to Lord Nityananda Prabhu. So in terms of the bhajans themselves, sometimes we hear, I remember hearing before, I think from Agnidev Prabhu, and I think he said that Srila Prabhupada said the same thing, that the bhajans of our acharyas are as good as the Vedas. And also the bhajans, they contain every point of Krishna consciousness. So what I love about them is that they do contain all the points of Krishna consciousness, but in a very simple way, and it's very accessible. Especially, I find personally, and maybe you do as well, that especially when you sing, it's very easy to put your heart into that. So when you hear the philosophy told in the simple way that it is in the songs, but through music, for me it has quite a strong effect. Bhajan, the word bhajan itself, like I say, forgive me if I'm saying things that are a bit too simple, because I'm sure many of you are probably aware of these things already, but just because we have quite a mixed audience, and maybe there may be some things that people don't know. So the word bhajan itself comes from the word bhaja. In English, there is not an exact translation for the word bhaj, but I looked up the etymology of the word. So in a simple way, you can say a bhajan is a devotional hymn or a devotional song. But when I looked up the etymology on this is what Wikipedia says. I'll just read you what it says. So bhaj means divide, share, partake, participate, to belong to, and it also connotes attachment, devotion to, fondness for, homage, faith or love, worship, piety to something as a spiritual religious principle, or means of salvation. So I thought particularly that last definition, means of salvation, was particularly appropriate, because I've noticed myself over the years that sometimes there may be times where the mind is particularly disturbed, and maybe I don't really feel like sitting down and reading Shastra, but I noticed that if I just read a song, one or two songs of the acharyas, then it can have a powerful effect. And as it said there in that definition, like a means of salvation, very quickly it can change our consciousness, thanks to the mercy of our teachers. So so that's a little bit of background and why I was thinking something to do with songs. I don't really like giving class very much. I generally try to avoid it, but over the years, if I do have to give class, one thing that I like to do is I usually try to just sing a song and then talk about the meaning of it, because then that way I feel a little bit more relaxed about it. But again, in the interest of honesty, I'm not. I don't have any musical training. I don't have like a very a very good voice, or I don't know all the tattva of all the ragas and all the important musical aspects. All I know is that this is what makes me feel enthusiastic, and as I said, it's something I think that you can put your heart into. So there are many things that I don't know. I feel like I'm always learning, and one of the aims in speaking these talks that I wanted to express with you all and also to pray for your blessings, is that because there are many things that I don't know. I may get things wrong, and I would appreciate any corrections, and I would appreciate any input from all of you. I'm sure that all of you have many realizations on the topics that we're going to be speaking about. And if I feel that this experience hopefully will be something where we're all learning. You know, I don't really feel qualified in the sense to feel like a teacher, because I'm not. I'm just trying to share what our teachers have given us. But if we can all learn together, I would really appreciate that. So any input, any realizations from any of you, that would be great. So yeah, and the other thing I was going to say, excuse me, sorry, my nose is running, is that, yeah, I'm saying all these things, you know, I like to sing, I'm not so well versed in Shastra, and I don't want to be sentimental about it. So also the purpose of these talks in exploring the topic through song and Shastra is that I hope to become a bit more fixed in the tattva and the reasons behind why do we love these songs so much, you know, rather than just it being something sentimental. So yes, I do need all of your blessings, and please help. And that would be much appreciated. So another thing I asked myself in trying to decide what to speak about is what makes Krishna consciousness more real for me? What are the things about it that makes it the most real? And one of the things that I find very interesting, and that I've always found very interesting, is not just that in bhakti it's described that God is not only one, but there are many, many avatars of the Lord, as the Srimad Bhagavatam says in the third chapter of the first canto. Avatara hyasankyeya hare sattva nidherdvija yatha vidasina kulya sarasasyu sahasrashaha. O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water. So that's one wonderful thing that I always thought, how amazing it is that it's explained that the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like waves on the ocean. There are so many. But not just that in itself. What I find particularly interesting is that when the Lord appears, he doesn't come alone. He always comes with his eternal associates. So again, Bhagavatam says about, you know, all these different incarnations. Ete changsha kalapum sha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That out of all these, you know, all these incarnations, they're portions or plenary portions, but Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. And so Krishna is there in his Leela, and he has his eternal associates. And what I find wonderful is that when he appears in other forms, then those eternal associates descend also in a particular form suitable and appropriate for the particular incarnations of the Lord. So I'm sure all the devotees are familiar with Lord Balaram. It was his appearance day recently, his birthday a couple of weeks ago, and he's very dear to all the devotees. It's explained that he's the first expansion of Krishna, and he appears as his elder brother. A couple of weeks ago, our Guru Maharaj gave a very nice class on the appearance day of Lord Balaram. So Narottam Das Thakur sings in his Ishtadeve Vigyapti, or the Hari Hari Bifale song, he sings, Brajendra Nandana ye, Sachi Sutta hoilo se, Balarama hoilo nitai. That he who is the son of the king of Braj, so the king of Braj being Nanda Maharaj, the son is Krishna. He who is the son of the king of Braj has now become Sachi Sutta, the son of Mother Sachi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Balaram, he has become Nitai. And there's a similar verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita at the beginning of the fifth chapter. That's the chapter titled "The Glories of Nityananda Balaram." And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami sings, Shri Krishna Navadvipe Shri Chaitanya Chandra Say Balarama Sange Shri Nityananda. That original Lord Krishna appeared in Navadvip as Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram appeared with him as Lord Nityananda. So, I find this quite an exciting concept, that the Lord never comes alone, but he brings his eternal associates with him. And Balaram is very dear to the Lord as his brother. So when he came as Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda Prabhu came as well as his brother. And there are so many songs written about Lord Nityananda. I can give a few examples. We mentioned about Narottam Das Thakur. There's also a very nice verse in the Lala Samai Prarthana song about when one gets the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And there's also the beautiful Nitai Pada Kamala about the importance of taking shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written some wonderful songs glorifying Lord Nityananda. Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. The glories of Lord Nityananda starting the marketplace of the holy name. There's also a wonderful verse in Kabe Habe Bolo Sedina Amar, praying again for the mercy of Lord Nityananda. There's wonderful songs of Lochan Das Thakur, Nitai Gunamani, Akrodha Paramananda Nityananda Rai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has written Jaya Jaya Nityananda Rohini Kumar. And Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj has also written the wonderful Sriman Nityananda Dwadashakam, the 12 verses glorifying Lord Nityananda. So that's just a few to mention, but there are so many. I would like to endeavor to learn more. But so we can understand through these songs, and also through, I'm sure, through your own experience, that Lord Nityananda is very dear to all Gaudiya Vaishnava devotees. Most of you, I'm sure, have heard about him from the very beginning of your devotional lives. And as I mentioned before, we owe so much to him in terms of spreading Gaudiya Vaishnavism, in terms of how he instructed Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and so many other things. My Guru Maharaj, he says that we cannot neglect the importance of Lord Nityananda. There's a class that he gave in 1999 on Nityananda Trayodasi. And in that class, my Guru Maharaj says that the farthest reach of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is found in Nityananda Prabhu. And in the same class, he's explaining that Lord Nityananda is everything. And he says that everything always comes back to Lord Nityananda. So again, I'm saying these things and it sounds very nice, but I'm hoping that through the course of these talks that we're going to really understand the tattva behind that, how that is so, because it's factually true that everything always comes back to Lord Nityananda. Although it also just sounds very nice, but so he, there's so many wonderful things about him. He can give Krishna Prema, he can give Gaura Prema. And I remember when I was a young devotee, when I first moved to the temple, I hadn't been there very long. I lived in the temple in Scotland, and the presiding deities there were called Sri Sri Kodanitai and Mayapur Shashi. So they were beautiful deities of Sri Sri Gaura Nityananda, quite large. I don't know, can't really show you on the screen, but quite large, beautiful deities. They came to Scotland in about 1996, and previous to that they used to be in San Francisco. So Lord Nityananda, he resided in the temple where I lived, and from the very beginning we were always encouraged. I remember actually one class hearing when I had not been in the temple very long, and it was being impressed upon us that the devotee giving the class, he said, you must take Lord Nityananda as your own. take him as yours. And he was giving the example of how Lochan Das Thakur sings Mora Nitai, he's my Nitai. So he's my Nitai and he's yours. And this devotee was impressing that upon us. And I suppose maybe, yeah, as I say, I was quite new then, but I took that to heart. And so in my service, when the years that I lived in the temple, I used to do book distribution full time, and through all my service, all the time that I was out, I would always try to think of Lord Nityananda, and always try to pray to him, and I always felt that he was helping. I felt that everything was really being done by him anyway, but. And I often I would have some very nice, something very interesting that happened that I would think that was like maybe some special kind of wink of Lord Nityananda, that, you know, because we hear sometimes that he's, he has so many wonderful qualities. One of the things we hear about him that we're going to speak a little bit more about in the future is that his behavior sometimes seems a little bit crazy. And so sometimes a few things happened to me that just seemed very unusual for that time. I'll give you a couple of examples. Like, I remember one time years ago, just as I say, I used to distribute books every day in those days. And I remember one time, this happened a few times, some things like this, but just to give one example, that I was having a really difficult day and everything was so hard and people were being horrible. And I was really exasperated, and I sat down, and I was just about to burst into tears, and just when I was about to cry, then somebody came running up to me, and they quickly dropped a box on my lap, and they said, "This is for you," and then they ran off. And then I looked at the box, and it seemed like something very random. It was just like I don't know, some like perfumes or some, you know, body lotion and stuff, so I wouldn't really use, but I took it at that time that even though like everything was so difficult and I just, you know, I wasn't really getting anywhere, but it was as if the Lord was still, you know, making it known that he's there. So I've always felt that whenever these kind of, particularly whenever these things happen that seem like very like random, that I've always taken that as the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And I have another little story that I'll just quickly share, just because I really feel that the more that you think about him and the more that you meditate on him, the more that you see his presence in your life. And a couple of weeks ago, I'd started preparing for these talks, and I'd recently gotten hold of this book, this lovely book. It's called The Nectarian Glories of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and it's by Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj, but it also contains Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj's Srimad Nityananda Dwadashakam. So I was reading this, so I'd been thinking a bit more about Lord Nityananda. And then I happened to see that one morning I saw a post on Facebook of a friend of mine who I met many years ago, a devotee called Madhavananda Prabhu in India. I'm quite good friends with his wife. She used to live in Scotland when I lived there. And I saw a post that Madhavananda Prabhu was with His Holiness Padmanabh Maharaj in Puri. And at that time, Padmanabh Maharaj, he'd just been staying with us some days before, and then he left England and he went to India. And so I saw this post in the morning that Madhavananda Prabhu is there with Padmanabh Maharaj and the devotees, and I was thinking, I wish I was there. I'd love to be there. And then it was just funny because, as I say, I was reading about Lord Nityananda and I was thinking about these kind of funny things that he does. And then the same day, on that day, there was the doorbell, ding dong on the doorbell, and the postman was at the door. And the postman had a small parcel for me, and he says, "It's a special delivery." And so I opened the box, and inside there was this strange kind of, it was like a 3D printed kind of tube, like this blue thing, one tube inside another, and it was like a maze. And I was like, testing it, trying to open it, and it took some time, and I didn't know what it was. But inside, when I opened it, there was actually like quite a lot of there was cash inside it, money, and when I counted it, it was just about exactly the right amount for a ticket to India. So for me, because of reading about Lord Nityananda, I thought, I took it that's as an example of, this is like the kind of like very sweet mercy that I feel like, even when I forget that he's always there and that he's always noticing everything, that actually he sends these little reminders that he is. And actually, I'm not going to be going to India anytime soon, but I will try to, use that Lakshmi in some, the best way for seva for the person who sent it. But again, it was very random, because the person who sent it, I hadn't seen this person since I was like about 16 years old. So it was very random. But anyway, it was just to show the example that I think Nityananda Prabhu shows his mercy in our lives in these very sweet little ways. And one other thing I'll just share with you also about why I wanted it to particularly be on this topic is because I do feel that from the very start that he's always been very, very merciful to me. When I met my Guru Maharaj, I didn't meet my Guru Maharaj until 2017. So only just over 4 years ago. And at that time, I'd been practicing Krishna consciousness for about 14 years. I had sort of kind of aspired for various gurus over the years, but I'd never become formally initiated by anybody. And for various reasons, I won't go into the stories, but there was always lots of hurdles and until I met my Guru Maharaj. But the point is that I never made any vows in spiritual life. I never made any promises or anything. The only vow that I ever made actually happened a few years after I lived in the temple, when a friend of mine, she was a pujari in the temple. She had these, I knew that she had the deities, she called a Nitai Mayapur Shashi. They got some new slippers. So at night, when they would change them into their night suits, they would have slippers. And one day they got some new ones. And my friend, who was the pujari, she got their old slippers. And she knew that I really wanted Lord Nityananda's shoes. And I didn't know if I would ever get them. She said to me, oh, maybe I might get them. But it just so happened that one year, for weeks, my left eye was twitching, when it's like trembling, and I didn't know why. And I was complaining to the devotees about it, saying like, my eye keeps like doing this, and they were like smiling, saying, and one of my friends, Tungi, she said to me, oh, I know why it's doing that. And I didn't really know, but actually, maybe some of you know, if you've read in Krishna book, in the story where Krishna kidnaps Rukmini, when Rukmini writes that letter to Krishna, asking him to come and kidnap her before she's ever met him, she sends that letter with the brahmana, and then she's waiting, and she doesn't know if Krishna's going to come or not, but she actually starts to worry that maybe he's not going to come. But then it says in Krishna book that then her left eyelid, her left arm, and her left thigh all started trembling. And in the book, Prabhupada, he says that this is a sign that something lucrative can be expected. So something profitable means, something very good is going to happen. So I didn't know. But the point is, so my eye had been twitching for some weeks. And then my friend Jagannath Priya Devi, one day she presented me with these shoes of Lord Nityananda. But when she gave them to me, she made me make a promise. And like I say, at that time, I never made any vows in spiritual life. But she told me I had to promise every day I have to put these shoes on my head, and I have to pray. I have to recite a verse of from Kabe Habe Bolo Sedina Amar, the verse about Lord Nityananda. It goes, Kabe Nityananda More Koridoya Charai Be Mora Vishayara Maya Dia More Nija Charanara Jaya Namera Hatete Dibe Adhikar Kabe habe bolo sedina amar. Kabe habe bolo sedina amar. It means, when will Lord Nityananda show mercy upon me? When will I reject the world of Maya? Bestow unto me the shade of your lotus feet. Let the right to preach the name be mine. When, oh when will that day be mine? When, oh when will that day be mine? And she told me, she said, you have to recite this every day. And then you must pray to Lord Nityananda. You must pray, please help me. So because I made that promise when I was quite young, but since I made it as a promise, I always kept it. So even after I left the temple, and even when my life changed, I had my daughter 11 years ago, and even when I had a little tiny baby, and I wasn't really chanting very much. There were many things I wasn't really doing, but I never forgot to do that. I never forgot to pray to Lord Nityananda, and I feel that even through the, all through the time, he was always helping me. He always let me stay in the association of devotees, and I feel that he always really helped. So Chaitanya Charitamrita describes Lord Nityananda as the foremost of all the associates of Lord Chaitanya. There's a verse, I wrote it down. What is it? Nityananda avatuta sabate agala, Chaitanya radasya preme haila pagala. Sri Nityananda, the wandering mendicant, is the foremost of all the associates of Lord Chaitanya. He became mad in the ecstasy of service to Lord Chaitanya. So this verse is included in a section in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is describing different associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he's saying that that love of Krishna imbues them all with a spirit of service. So, and it's saying there that Nityananda Prabhu, he became mad in that ecstasy of service. But I really like how it describes him as the foremost of all the associates of Lord Chaitanya. So he's very important to us. I will just very briefly give a little bit of basic information on Panchatapa, just in case anyone's not aware of them, because Lord Nityananda Prabhu obviously appears in the Panchatapa, the five truths of God, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared with these associates. So there's that nice verse in the beginning of the 7th chapter of Adi Leela that Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam, which means, let me offer my obeisances unto Sri Krishna, who has manifested himself in 5, as a devotee, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as an expansion of a devotee, Nityananda Prabhu, as an incarnation of a devotee, Advaita Acharya, as a pure devotee, Srivas Thakur, and as devotional energy, Sri Gadadhar Pandit. So there's a few verses that I'm just going to read from Chaitanya Charitamrita in the 7th chapter, verses 11 to 16, just giving a little bit more information on the different tattvas of the Panchatattva. So we'll just read those. The transcendental mellow of conjugal love of Krishna is so wonderful that Krishna himself accepts the form of a devotee to relish and taste it fully. For this reason, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the supreme teacher, accepts the form of a devotee and accepts Lord Nityananda as his elder brother. Sri Advaita Acharya is Lord Chaitanya's incarnation as a devotee. Therefore, these 3 tattvas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Goswami, are the predominators or masters. One of them is Mahaprabhu, and the other 2 are Prabhus. These 2 Prabhus serve the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. The 3 predominators, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu, are worshipable by all living entities, and the 4th principle, Sri Gadadhar Prabhu, is to be understood as their worshipper. There are innumerable pure devotees of the Lord, headed by Srivas Thakur, who are known as unalloyed devotees. So I just read those just to sort of clarify that in the Panchatattva, the three energies of God are present there. We have Vishnu Tattva, Shakti Tattva, and Jiva Tattva. So in the Panchatattva, three of the members are Vishnu Tattva, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Acharya. And the Shakti Tattva is Gadadhar Prabhu, and Jiva Tattva, Srivas Thakur. So from that, we can understand that Lord Nityananda Prabhu is Vishnu Tattva, meaning that he's God, just like we know that Balaram, like, you know, there's no difference between Krishna and Balaram in terms of the Tattva. But I wanted to look into, so what is the difference? On a couple of weeks ago on Balaram Purnima, I mentioned that my Guru Maharaj, Srila Tripurari Swami Maharaj, he gave a very nice talk on Sri Balaram. And one of the things that he said about Balaram is that he said that he is more of a reliable friend. That's how the residents of Braj see him. And maybe it's because, you know, sometimes we hear Krishna is often up to his tricks, and maybe he doesn't always keep his word, but Balaram, he's very reliable. And I feel that in the same way, we can see Lord Nityananda Prabhu as more reliable in that way. Like sometimes I've heard from my Guru Maharaj that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes we see him depicted with one arm up, extended to the highest tattva. He's wanting to experience Radha Bhav, and the other hand is stretched out to us. But with Lord Nityananda Prabhu, both his hands are stretched out to us, because he just wants to give to everyone, and he doesn't discriminate. Nityananda Prabhu. There are examples of sometimes where Lord Chaitanya would get angry sometimes, but Lord Nityananda Prabhu, he would never get angry. We all know the famous story of Jagai and Madhai, but there's also the example of Kaliya Krishnadas, that Mahaprabhu was traveling and took Kaliya Krishnadas with him, this boy, but Kaliya Krishnadas, I think he ended up causing a bit of trouble because he got a bit mixed up with some women or something. But so when Mahaprabhu returned, he said, like, I don't want to keep this boy with me anymore, this Kaliya Krishnadas. He was not very happy. But Nityananda Prabhu, he said, no problem, I'll take him. And Nityananda Prabhu took in Kaliya Krishnadas, and I think he took him to Bengal. I think he engaged him in the service of Mother Sachi somehow, like speaking to her about the devotees. And I actually read that. So, and then Kaliya Krishnadas, he spent his whole life with Nityananda Prabhu. So it's just an example of that Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Even if someone angers Lord Chaitanya, it doesn't anger Lord Nityananda. And there's a very nice verse again from Chaitanya Charitamrita, the 5th chapter on the glories of Nityananda Balaram, verse 208. Preme mata Nityananda kripa avatara uttama dhama kichuna kare vichara. Because he is intoxicated by ecstatic love and is an incarnation of mercy, he does not distinguish between the good and the bad. So I think this is also why I always felt that he was the best person to pray to, because he doesn't make any discrimination. And we hear that he is the most merciful. There are so many endearing qualities of Lord Nityananda that we hear about. One that I mentioned earlier about this, this pagal, this kind of craziness, which is, it can be quite endearing. because actually what I meant to say earlier, when that happened with the surprise gift at the door with the postman, that when I continued reading the book that I was reading, just the bit that I read was explaining how when Haridas Thakur came back with Lord Nityananda after they'd been chased away by Jaga and Madhai, that Haridas Thakur said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, "I will not go out anymore with this pagal Nityananda." So I just, it just at the time, like I said, it felt very significant that he will just do these crazy things. But you know, and he's described that he's overflowing with prema. We often read that he was very childlike, Nityananda Prabhu. We hear that, how he was with Malini, the wife of Srivas Thakur. He would treat her like a mother, and Sachima as well. And that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was always quite careful to not let anybody misunderstand Lord Nityananda Prabhu, because even though he may act in these ways, Mahaprabhu didn't want anyone to get the wrong impression that Lord Nityananda was not such an exalted person as he is. So we hope to explore more about these things in these talks. I hope we can speak more about it. But one thing I also found interesting is in terms of the childlike quality of Lord Nityananda, that it's quite a contrast to Lord Balaram, because we always think of Lord Balaram as being the elder brother. And although Nityananda also is the elder brother of Lord Chaitanya, but still he displays this childlike mood in his ecstasy. So Nityananda Prabhu, he is wholly dedicated to Mahaprabhu. The very first day that I met my Guru Maharaj was in Prague, and he was giving a talk. And one of the things I remember him speaking about was he was speaking about how Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are like the macrocosmic gurus, and all the gurus that we have as individuals are like the microcosmic gurus. And how from Lord Nityananda this lineage of Sakya-ras is coming, and from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu this lineage of Madhurya Ras. So it's also quite significant for all of us, especially when we think in terms of how this Krishna consciousness movement spread. And many of us may have been influenced by the books of Srila Prabhupada, and it's said by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj that Prabhupada was empowered specifically by Lord Nityananda. So all of these little things just contribute to why I thought it's important to speak more about him and to learn more about him. And also I hope that we'll also learn more about the aspects of Lord Nityananda as the guru, as Balaram, he's Adi Guru, he's the original guru, and as Lord Nityananda also. So these are some of the things that we want to speak a bit more about. But anyway, getting to the actual title of the talk, Exploring the Mercy of Lord Nityananda Through Song and Shastra. I was thinking, like, what songs shall we sing? How shall we do it? And what I've decided to do is mainly for these series of talks, just mainly use one song. And today we'll introduce that, and we'll just speak a little bit about the first verse. And then next week, speak more about a couple more verses. And then on Saturday the 18th, I won't be giving a talk on that day, because that day will be the Avirbhav Mahotsava of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So His Grace Prabhupada Prabhu will be giving a talk on that day. So I'll actually just be giving 3 talks in this series. So then the third one will be on the 25th of September, where we'll finish talking about the song, and maybe we can sing it together or something. I'm not quite sure yet how it will work, but yeah, as well as using one main song, I thought then we can interweave different songs into that, and some information from other songs, information from the Shastras, and hopefully all, as I mentioned, all learn together. That's the plan. So so the song that I thought that we would talk a little bit about is a song that I first heard, I first heard it about 4 years ago. Visited a temple in London that's run by it's called the Ganga Mata's Temple. It's run by a group of girls, very wonderful devotees who do a lot of wonderful seva. And in this temple, I heard this song, and it's called Akrodha Paramananda Nityananda Rai, and it is written by Srila Lochan Das Thakur. Lochan Das Thakur was a disciple of Narahari Saraka Thakur, who was an associate of Lord Chaitanya. Lochan Das Thakur was born in, I'm not sure if he was born in 1520 or 1523. I read some different information. One source said 1520, but either way, he was born at the time when Mahaprabhu was here. And from his very early childhood, he met devotees of Lord Chaitanya, and he always had a lot of love for him. And he actually learned the verses from the diary of Murari Gupta. And it's said that Lochan Das Thakur learnt these verses in Sanskrit from Damodar Pandit. And then Lochan Das Thakur then wrote the Chaitanya Mangala in Bengali. So the Chaitanya Mangala was composed from the diary of Murari Gupta in Bengali. And then I read that after composing the Chaitanya Mangala, sometime after, it said that because Lochan Das Thakur felt that he may not have glorified Nityananda Prabhu extensively, then he specifically wrote songs dedicated to Lord Nityananda, of which this is one of them. I'm not sure, maybe hopefully some of you may already be familiar with it. There's a couple of different meters that I've heard it sung in, but we'll sing. I'm sorry, what I should have done is I should put it in the chat, but I haven't copied it from anywhere. So anyway, I'll make for next time, I'll make sure I put it in the chat, but it's just quite a short verse. So I'll just, we'll just discuss it, and we'll just discuss a little bit about what the meanings of the words. And yeah, we'll do like that. So, so the song starts, Akrodha Paramananda Nityananda Rai Abhimana Shunya Nitai Nagare Bedaya. So it's very simple, the first verse, but I find it quite stunning. Even from the first word of it, I felt it captured my heart. Akrodha Paramananda Nityananda Rai. Akrodha, probably some of you know already, often in like Sanskrit and Bengali and Hindi, often a word, if it has a in the beginning, like a, often means like the opposite, or like without. So for example, like agyan, as opposed to gyan, knowledge, and agyan, ignorance, or mal, like some dirtiness, or amal, meaning pure. So krodha, which many of you might be familiar with that word, anger, comes up a few times in the Bhagavad Gita. Akrodha, so he is never angry. Akrodha. So just this very first word of the song, I feel, just illustrates the divinity of Nityananda Prabhu, that he is Akrodha. Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita in the 16th chapter that anger, or krodha, is one of the qualities belonging to those of demoniac nature. And he also says in the second chapter that from anger comes delusion. So the fact that Nityananda Prabhu is Akrodha, he is not touched by any of that. So I think as I said, it shows his divinity, as that he is not an ordinary person. He is not an ordinary person of this world. Akrodha Paramananda. So everybody knows Ananda, bliss, and Param, the supreme, Paramananda. Again, I think it's showing his divinity, that he is absorbed in he's supremely blissful. this verse that I mentioned earlier from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Nityananda Prabhu became mad in the ecstasy of service to Lord Chaitanya. So he was always absorbed in that supreme bliss, not just emitting it, but also the personification of it. There was a nice description. I mentioned this verse. So he became mad in the ecstasy of service to Lord Chaitanya, and in that that madness, sometimes one of the names of Lord Nityananda, Avadhut. Avadhut. I read a nice description actually in this book that I mentioned before, Bhakti Sundar Govindam Dev Goswami Maharaj, and he gives a verse from the Vaishnav Tantra. Anta Shakta Bahi Shaiva Sabhayam Vaishnavomata Nanavesha Dharakola Vicharanti Mahitale. So this is the idea of an avadhut given in the Vaishnav Tantra, but he explains that there's two explanations. There's an ordinary idea of an avadhut, and then there's a transcendental idea of an avadhut. And he says that Nityananda Prabhu was fully transcendental and should never be confused with anyone mundane. His nature as an avadhut can be understood in this way. In his heart, Anta is playing Radha Krishna, Shuddha Shakta, and his form externally, Bahi, is like Lord Shiva, Shaiva. When he joins an assembly, his mentality is fully that of a Vaishnava. When he's traveling, sometimes he wears cloth, sometimes he wears no cloth, sometimes he wears many gold ornaments, jewels, and rich garments, and sometimes he wears sannyasi dress. Really, avadhut means one who is self-controlled, who is not controlled by scriptural rules or regulations. Whatever he does, that is always right and perfect. He will do anything and everything and is never to be considered wrong. If he is to be seen wrong externally in the eyes of others, then that is also right. Nityananda Prabhu became known by everyone as Avadhut. Everyone called him Avadhut. The people even forgot that his name was Nityananda. They would say, "Oh, Avadhut is coming." So I just thought I'd share that because just to elaborate a bit more on him being, seeming mad in the ecstasy of seva. So Akrodha Paramananda Nityananda Rai. Nityananda, we all know the meaning of his name. He's always eternally blissful. Nityananda Rai, the meaning of the word Rai, it has a few different meanings. Generally, it's a word usually given to somebody quite revered. I looked it up, and there are different meanings. Generally, it's primarily associated with the Kshatriya class. It's usually royalty that has this name Rai in part of their name, which I found quite interesting just because of the connection with Lord Balaram. But generally, it's a very respectful term, and it can be a royal title given by royalty to somebody because of their excellent deeds. So I thought that was very nice. A royal title given because of excellent deeds. So yeah, it can, but the general meaning, somebody very revered, Nityananda Rai, it connotes a very great person. But interestingly, one other definition that I found when I was looking it up on the internet is that it said in Bengali that Rai can also mean a beloved friend, which is also quite appropriate for Nityananda Prabhu, being the best friend of all. As I say, we'll delve further into this as we go along. But he's, he is said to be the Antaryami, there's Paramatma within everybody's heart, is Lord Nityananda. So he is our beloved friend, Nityananda Rai. Akrodha Paramananda Nityananda Rai. Abhiman Shunya Nitai Nagare Bedai. Abhiman, again, probably most of you know, but I'll just explain. So Abhiman generally, as a simple, it's often translated as a false ego, Abhiman. Abhi means like kind of great or superior or like fearless, and man means like to think. So Abhiman, like to think of oneself as like very great. So hence it's often translated Abhiman as the false ego, or sometimes as pride. But Nityananda Prabhu, Abhiman Shunya. So Shunya means devoid or without. It comes from the root svi, which means hollow. So completely empty of, completely devoid. Sometimes we've heard, most of you are familiar, there's this part of a prayer said Prabhupada, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine, that he's preaching against this prevalent mentality in the West of nirvishesh, like impersonalism. There's no differences, just all is one. And shunyavadi, this voidism, just this emptiness. So abhimana shunya, that he is completely devoid of pride, of false ego. Again, emphasizing his divinity, that he's not like us in this world. So Abhimana Shunya Nitai. Nitai is the shortened version of Nityananda Ram. Abhimana Shunya Nitai Nagare Bedai. Nagare in the villages, and Bedai, he's wandering. So he's wandering around the villages. The supremely blissful Nityananda Rai, who is never angry. He's completely devoid of false ego, and he is wandering around the villages. So this is the first verse of Lochan Das Thakur's song. I'm sorry I didn't post it in the chat so that you could all read. Oh, thank you. So, brilliant. I've just seen in the chat that Sakirati and Shyam did. So I'll try to be a bit more prepared in that sense next time. But so I just thought that's just like my introduction, really, that I'd explain to you all how I got to this conclusion of what to talk about. And just mention what song we'll be singing, and also that I would really encourage you all to please, if you've got anything to share from your own realizations or your own, I'll just change this box here, if you would like to share anything at all, or please correct anything or add anything, please feel free to. But thank you very much for your attention, and I'm sorry if I've like waffled a bit, or if it's been, like I say, it's quite basic level class, but I can't pretend to be somebody that I'm not. So, but yeah, please, would anyone like to say anything?
There is a message from Sarada in the chat.
Oh, thanks. Comment and part question. Thank you for mentioning the word bhaja. I would like to mention the well-known song Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Abhaja Muramate, which has been said to mean seek Govinda, or be a fool or deluded. So maybe bhaja means seek out as well. Pranams and dandavats for the class. And she's saying she would like to know more about the significance of Lord Nityananda's shoes at some point. Yeah, we had a conversation about this a few weeks ago. Yeah, we'll look more into that. So yeah, because I didn't mention, what did I she's saying it could mean to seek, divide, share, partake, participate, to belong to. Yeah, maybe like, because one of the definitions of bhaja that I read was like to belong to. So maybe it could tie in with that. Bhaja Govinda, like seek him out, but like be with him, kind of thing. Yeah, thanks for letting me know that, Sakirati. I didn't see it. So checking the time. Oh, Anupar, Paranam, really beautiful that you share your experience with Nityananda and the form that you read Bhagavad Gita. Me haces reflexionar acerca. I'm not too good on Spanish. I understand very basic Spanish. Thank you.
And after that, I see that Omkar, he's raising his hand.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Haribol, can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Haribol?
No, Omkar, if you want to talk.
Haribol, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, you can hear me now? Oh, no.
Yes.
Yes, okay, Hari. Thank you, class, nectar class. Very nice. I wanted to ask the Avadhoot description of Nityananda Prabhu. The description of Avadhoot kind of confused me. What does it mean? Nobody can understand Nityananda's place, even if he's seemingly doing things is right. You know what that means? Is it so it's transcendental that you just have to two sadhus are talking to each other and arguing and have to think that they're a higher platform, or how to understand? Does that make sense, that question?
I think so. I couldn't hear you very well at the end, but I think you were saying about when I read this description that even if he's seen to be wrong externally in the eyes of others, that is also right. Is that what you were saying?
That's what I thought that I got the description you read, but I just wanted to see if that's my understanding of it is right, because it's so Avadhoot term is almost like sounds like it's almost a little derogatory when everybody's saying Avadhoot coming. It almost sounds like a little bit like I'm making fun, like it's crazy or something. I'm totally misunderstanding. That's probably not almost offensive way to understand it.
I didn't hear very well. I don't know if.
I'm sorry, we're term Avadhoot, I guess. How to understand it and not seeming wrongdoings, which are right. Basically, my question.
Did anybody else manage to understand that? I'm so sorry, Prabhu. I couldn't hear very clearly. So I guess I couldn't quite understand what Omkar Prabhu's understanding of that bit was. But when I read that if he's seen to be wrong externally in the eyes of others, then that is also right. That I just took it that he's always I don't know how to explain really that he would do. Oh, Well, I'm not really sure how to answer, but I suppose I mean, for me, like I explained in the beginning, because like I always found it quite something very enthusiastic for me just to sing. So I found that, you know, you can really just put your whole heart into it and just not care about anything else. So in that sense, I think I always really appreciated to learn about Lord Nityananda Prabhu, in the sense that he was, you know, I pray very much that I can always remember him, and that hopefully his mercy will affect me, and that maybe one day I will be able to actually be so absorbed in that bliss of seva. But I always really like to hear that, how, you know, because he was so absorbed that he wasn't like conscious of like the external world of what's going on. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say like specifically how I felt his mercy during kirtan or bhajan, but certainly I guess in that mood of just being able to really, you know, as much as possible, just try to put your whole heart into it without thinking of anything else. You know, if somehow singing seems an easier way to do that. I think probably most devotees have this experience as well, that in kirtan it's usually easier to focus your mind than in japa. I don't know. I find, maybe not everybody, maybe sometimes people find easier in japa, but maybe I like that attitude of just being able to really just really put your heart into something and just not care about anything else. But I don't know if that's a very good way to answer it, but that's just my feeling on it. Maybe this probably Rajahari Prabhu is his name, or maybe he has some experience that he would like to share. Oh, sorry, I didn't know if he. Anyway, so there's, I think Sharada is asking at the end there, is the concept regarding to this avadut query, is the concept of when wrong is thought to be right causing offense? Is that part of the question? I'm not sure. Maybe I can post the quote on the Facebook video or something as a comment, and then maybe we can discuss it more there. If Onkar Prabhu is on Facebook, isn't he? So yeah, maybe it can be further discussed there, if that's okay. No, he's not on Facebook anymore.
He closed his account, but we can do it on YouTube, because it will be uploaded on YouTube also. Okay, yeah, that would be great. Yeah, and maybe I can look into it a bit more as well. Yeah, or maybe okay. So YouTube. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I don't know. Oh, it says one new message. Not on Facebook. Okay, somehow we'll try to clarify the point, because it's a good point, and I don't really know how to explain it. Yeah, whatever he does, that is always right and perfect. He will do anything and everything, and is never to be considered wrong. If he is seen to be wrong externally in the eyes of others, then that is also right. I guess my interpretation, I guess I consider it that, like, if he's seen to be wrong in the eyes of others, then it's right because it's exposing their own consciousness. But I'm not sure. But yeah, perhaps maybe we can
we can discuss it more, and maybe some more knowledgeable devotees can give their input as well. So I don't know if there's anything else, but if not, thank you so much all for being here. Thank you. And I hope I haven't said anything wrong or caused any offenses, and please forgive me, and my Dandavat pranams to you all, and I hope that we can all learn a bit more together. Thank you so much.
Mohini dasi ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you. Jai Shri Nityananda Ram Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Sadhu Sangha ki Jai. Shri Gurudev ki Jai. Hari Hari Bol.